Alright, hey everyone, you found the Valley's most in-depth geeky weather forecast video, Weather for Weather Geeks, here on the 22nd day of January 2020, and midweek featuring a modest warming trend. We're not going to see the kind of blowtorch pattern that we had earlier on this month with crazy warmth, record-tying and record-setting warmth. We're not going to see that anytime soon, but we're also not going to see much in the way of harsh cold again anytime real soon. Today started pretty cold. We started at 13 this morning, nowhere near that record back in 2014 of 6 below zero, but it was a nice warm up today. We added 20 degrees onto our temperatures with a slow increase in high clouds today. At 11 inches worth of snow for the month so far at the Youngstown Warren Airport, and I wanted to touch on the subject of snow. We have no accumulating snow in our forecast for the next couple of days. Here's where we stand so far in January. Again, 11 inches at the airport. Interestingly, it snowed at least a little bit on all 3 Sundays so far this month. Now, anytime I show snow statistics, especially when we haven't had a whole lot of snow, I see a lot of comments, especially on Facebook, like, I haven't seen anywhere near these amounts. Don't forget that this is for the Youngstown Warren Airport in Vienna, and especially when you look at these seasonal totals, a lot of this occurred in November. We actually had a pretty cold and somewhat snowy November. We have had below average snowfall in December and January, but very early in the season. Don't want to forget about November being a fair bit snowy, and so therefore we're not as far below average as you might think. And again, this is for the airport. If you live in a place like, well, Lisbon or Hanoverton or even up into parts of Mahoning County, you haven't seen this much, but for the airport in Vienna, southeastern part of Trumbull County, about 3.5 inches below average and about 1.5 inches short of where we were through the same date last year. We've got a lot of winter left, and February is one of our snowier months of the year, of course. Now, February's numbers, you know, you have to put a little asterisk on February because it's a few days shorter than January, only 28 days. In most Februaries, this year we have 29, though it's a leap year. If February were the same length as January, or January and December, I suspect it would be very, very close between December and February as far as second place on our ranks of snowiest months in the calendar year, and we even see 17.4% of our annual snowfall in the month of March around here. We've had some warm Februaries of late, and then we've paid for it in March. Hopefully we won't see the same thing this year. That's kind of a bummer. When you've got a nice February, you're starting to think spring, and then March just drops the hammer and reminds you that in our part of the country, winter's not done until it says it's done, and oftentimes it's not done until April. Things are quiet this evening. There is some snow off to our west, but this system, as it pulls east, is going to start dragging in enough warm air that as this system spreads precipitation our way, it's going to be in the liquid form by Friday night. We've seen that increase in high cirrus clouds today, and there'll be a veil of high cirrus clouds again tomorrow, but it's still going to be a pretty decent day. Lower 20s to start, lower 40s in the afternoon. Hey, that's not bad. About 10 degrees above average. And by the way, I mentioned this on 21 News at 6. Tomorrow begins the rise in our average high temperatures. We go from 32 to 33 tomorrow, beginning the process that takes us all the way to 82 degrees for an average high during late June and early July. It's a very slow process at first, but most importantly, the process is starting. All right, I doubt it's raining first thing in the morning on Friday. Maybe there's a sprinkle. Temperatures right around freezing. We might technically have a little mixed precipitation trying to break out early Friday, but I don't think it's very impactful. I think it's just rain for, especially in the afternoon and evening. And then while we should get into a dry slot for parts of Saturday, especially as we get into the afternoon, moisture will try to rotate back in, and maybe there's a rain and a snow shower here and there, Saturday especially in the afternoon hours. Here's a look at our model spread for rainfall coming our way Friday afternoon into Friday night. Lines are clustered right around 3/4 inch. This seems a little high to me. I guess I would hedge my bets a little bit towards the lower end of this model spread as it stands right now. But stay tuned on that. And one thing for sure, you know, there's a ton of salt on the roads. It's very dusty when you're driving along and there's that much salt on the roads and everybody's car is kind of gross. We'll get a nice little car wash Friday and into Friday night. It'll be nice to wash some of that salt away. Talked about this last evening in case you missed it. This is a top-down view of the northern hemisphere, and the jet stream configuration is not one that favors harsh cold. Unlike last year our worst cold was right at the end of January through the first day or two of February. We're not going to see a rerun this year. The end of January, you got your polar vortex kind of over the Arctic, and very little in the way of any sort of deep troughing across North America. There's no blocking over Greenland. There's really no blocking in a favorable area in the Northeast Pacific, so it's not a pattern that's going to produce the kind of harsh cold that we can sometimes see at the end of January like we just saw last year. It's not going to happen this year. And February, again, I talked about this some last night, February I think is going to start with a similar pattern. If we're going to have a colder February, it's probably going to be during the middle of the month and latter portions of the month. First week of the month, to me, at this point, looks to be a continuation of the January pattern. All right, thanks for watching Weather for Weather Geeks tonight. You know you'll find a fresh edition of this same video with an update on the weekend forecast and much more. Same time, same place on Thursday.